There's a new socialism in town.
Sweet. Cool. Can I join? I'm a level 33 socialism.
I call it identity socialism.
Oh.
The old socialism, the kind Karl Marx dreamed up, was all about the working class, the sort of blue-collar worker who, ironically...
Oh, so now they're going to... So wait, this is just, this is just a rebrand of that that Jordan Peterson made up, right? Cultural Marxism. Yeah. Identity socialism is just a rebrand of cultural Marxism. But Dinesh D'Souza wants his term to stick better. That's basically what we're dealing with now.
Voted for President
Marketing
Trump.
decision.
But today's socialists couldn't care less about the guy in the hard hat. He had his chance at revolution.
Yeah, that son of a... Look at him. All white and shit. That dude.
And blew it. Today's socialist
loser.
is all about race, gender, and transgender rights.
Race, gender, and transgender rights?
Class is an afterthought. To understand this is to understand the left's takeover of the college campus and all the ills that takeover has spawned.
Yeah.
From Me Too to Black Lives Matter to girls competing against biological boys.
I haven't heard of that last organization. Wait, Me Too. I mean, I have some criticisms of some of these Me Too cases, but there's plenty of stuff that Me Too did that was good, like, you know, the Epsteins and the Weinsteins and shit like that, right? The R. Kellys of the world. Black Lives Matter, you know, by and large, a pretty positive organization. And once again, like, you could find some criticisms you could make that I would probably agree with, but, like, you could find criticisms I agree with of any organization. Girls competing against biological boys. Like, when it comes to trans athletes and stuff, like, what are they supposed to do? There's not enough trans people for there to be a trans league, okay? So either you have to say trans people are not allowed to compete in sports, which seems super discriminatory, or you have to just place them wherever they fit best. You know, and maybe sometimes you're almost going to have to figure out on a case-by-case basis where they're going to belong in terms of what's going to be fair competitive-wise. You know, I don't think anyone is going to look at someone who's like a gigantic super, like, you know, if we're going to go like to the level of like the South Park joke where you have like basically a macho man Randy Savage and it's like, I'm a beautiful woman, you know, then like, I think most people are going to look at that and be like, I think you can compete with the men. No, we acknowledge you're a woman, but, you know, you're at the level where you can compete with the men. But that's like pretty much a myth, okay? That doesn't really exist for the most part. There might be like a few crazy examples you could point to, but for the most part, female trans athletes do not have some gigantic competitive edge over cis women. And trans men certainly do not have a fucking advantage over biological men. I don't think anyone even claims they do. Or cis men, I should say. So, like, this is just a big nothing. The amount of people who identify as trans is pretty small. The amount of people who identify as trans and want to compete in sports is even smaller. So I think that accommodations can be made for trans athletes. I don't think it needs to be a national issue. I think it could be settled on a case-by-case basis pretty easily. But of course, then you can't make political hay about it, and you can't fearmonger over it, and you can't vilify, you know, trans youth if you just take a reasonable approach like that. So instead, we have to make it some kind of giant issue.
But campus culture has now metastasized into the culture of the whole society. As liberal writer Andrew Sullivan has put it, we all live on campus now. Identity socialism is first...
Oh my God, the nightmare. The nightmare, we're all on the campus. We're all on the campus. Oh God, no. Help us, we're stuck on a campus. No. No! You blew it up! You blew it all up! Replaced it with nice buildings and a manicured lawn. Like, oh my God, guy. Like, okay, these blue hairs that you're so scared of, you admit they're a bunch of pussies. And yet you're scared. Like, oh my God, the pussies are going to get us. The pussies that we routinely make fun of for being weak and effete are going to get us. And they're going to stop us from saying what we want to say. I saw it today, unironically. I'll just pull it up real quick. All right, this is Glenn Danzig. The misfits couldn't happen today due to cancel culture. Remember Glenn Danzig? Mother, tell your children not to walk my word. Tell your children not to hear my word. What the man, what the dad, mother. And if you wanna bind him, baby, I control your body, you know? That was his solo career, though. He's talking about the misfits, man. The misfits couldn't happen today because of cancel culture. Like, what the wait. When the misfits came out, did like mainstream popular culture roll out a red carpet for the misfits and be like, we support what you guys do. We support the misfits. The mainstream popular culture 100% embraces the misfits, as the name would imply, right? Like, what the happened to punk rock, man? This was a punk, and he's gonna be sitting here telling us, oh man, fucking people today we couldn't even do the misfits because they just cancel us. It's like, why would you let them? What power do they actually have, especially against a punk rock band? Like, what does the misfits really need to go out there and do? Play some shows. You know, maybe some venues are like, we don't want you. Go find ones that will. There's always a venue that would rather take the money, especially for something that's controversial and interesting. Lots of venues would rather be like, all right, we'll do it. Come play here. We'll let you play. Play in the woods. Play on the street. Your punk rock. What the hate these punk rockers that grew up to be Republicans. Woke mob is coming to get us. The woke mob. Like, the woke mob and the punks were a bigger woke mob than this shit. The punks were, that was like, where do you think the whole punch Nazis thing comes from? Obviously, well, you can say it comes from World War II, but like, the whole idea of like beating the shit out of a bunch of racists and shit comes from the world of punk rock. So what the what is this? Little sissy shit, you. All right, here you go. Identity socialism. We're listening to Dinesh D'Souza.
First and foremost about division. Not just class division, but now race division, gender division, transgender division, blacks and Latinos.
Transgender division? Wait, who's dividing the transgenders again? Remember like 5 seconds ago? How the Me Too, Black Lives Matter, girls competing against boys. All of these things are like, hey, like the whole point of like Me Too, women should be treated the same as men. Black Lives Matter, black people should have all the same, should be treated the same way as white people. Girls competing against biological boys. Trans people should be treated the same way as cis people. But then, it's the left doing all this division. Sounds like the left is the one trying to undo the division done by the right to me.
Division, transgender division. Blacks and Latinos are in. Whites are out. Women are in. Men are out. Gays.
Wait, what? Men are out? We're half the population. Last I checked, we just elected a man president. A white one, for that matter. Like, what?
Bisexuals, transsexuals, transgenders are in. Heterosexuals are out.
Yeah, get out of here, heterosexuals. You're out. You're out. What do you mean out? By what metric are heterosexuals out? Like, have they been pushed out of popular culture? No. Still plenty of heterosexual characters on TV and in film. Have they been pushed out of political life? No. The vast majority of politicians remain heterosexual. Have they been pushed out of the arts? No. Still plenty of heterosexual representation there. Have they been discriminated against in any legal sense? No, not even close. There's still actually way more discrimination against LGBT people, especially the T, than there is heterosexuals. So by what metric are heterosexuals out? Huh? Like, you just make You don't give a do you? Oh, yeah. Heterosexuals are out because you know some dumb conservative who's not really even going to think about it is just going to hear it and go, yeah. I'm the victim here. I'm really the one being discriminatized against if you really think about it, you know? Can't even be straight no more. Can't even have a penis and stick it into a cis female vagina no more without someone giving you the side eye, eh? Well, yeah, you're doing it in the middle of Kmart, bro. Of course people are are there still Kmarts out there? I don't know.
Illegals are in, native-born citizens are out.
What? What? Wait. The group of people that you literally call illegals, who, if they're caught, will be literally deported from the country, are in. But the people who are here legally, who will never be deported no matter what they do, are somehow out. What the are you talking about, you psycho? Huh? Can I just let me reiterate, okay? Hold on. Let me just... Huh? What are you... Okay.
One may think this is all part of the politics of inclusion, but to think that is to get only half the picture. The point for the left is not merely to include, but also to exclude. So where did this identity socialism come from?
Nope. No. Not at all. Not even, nope. Not my left. I mean, sure. Are there exclusionary voices on the left? I'm sure there are. Okay, fine. But vast majority of what I've seen, the opposite. The exact opposite. Trying to bring everyone together.
Meet Herbert Marcuse.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You see this guy? You guys see this? Look at the chat right now. Peng Medea in the chat. Guys, I have to come clean. I'm actually a little straight. That's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine. Can we have one of the mods time him out, please? Can we have one of the mods time him out, please, until he comes to his senses? Get out of here. Get out of here, hetero piece of shit. Go and suck your vagina elsewhere. You monster. You sicken me. You sicken me to the very core of my straight-hating being, my friend. What a joke.
Born in Berlin in
what a
1998, Marcuse fled Germany at the dawn of the Nazi
did what
era.
now, huh?
After stints at Columbia, Harvard, and Brandeis, Marcuse moved to California, where he joined the University of California at San Diego in 1965.
Dope. Good for him.
You'd think that living in a paradise like Southern California with all the...
Wait a minute. Southern California's a paradise now? I thought you guys... Don't you conservatives, like, pretty much consistently maintain the lie that California is like this dystopian hellhole? Like this wretched, completely irredeemable place where like misery and destitution run rampant and people in the streets and stuff. Like, isn't that the whole narrative? All right.
The comforts and privileges of academic life might have softened Marcuse's Marx-like hatred of capitalism, but it was not to be.
Was that what he was doing? The whole time he was just like, lemonade. And I got to figure out some way to destroy this society. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay.
He prospered the more he wanted to bring the system down. He had a problem, however, a big one.
Huge.
Socialism didn't work in America. Life was too good. The working class in the U.S. didn't aspire to overthrow the existing order.
Yeah, well, things have changed now, huh? Bet you guys wish that was still the case.
They aspired to own a home. How could you foment revolution without revolutionaries? Classic Marxism had no answer for this. But almost 100 years after Marx, Marcuse did. The answer was college students. They would be the recruits for what he termed the Great Refusal, the repudiation and overthrow of free market capitalism.
Dope. Based. I gotta look up more about this guy.
Conditions were perfect. The students of the 60s were already living in what was in effect a socialist commune, a university campus.
A university campus is like a socialist commune? Pretty expensive one. Pretty capitalistically driven one, huh?
Rather than being grateful to their parents for providing them with this opportunity to learn and study, they were restless and bored. Most importantly, they were looking for meaning, a form of self-fulfillment that went beyond material gratification.
Yeah, if only they'd read the works of Ayn Rand, all of this could have been avoided.
Of course, as with all successful social movements, timing was critical. Here, Marcuse was very fortunate. The 60s was the decade of the Vietnam War.
Yeah, lucky him.
Students faced the prospect of being drafted. Thus, they had selfish reasons to oppose the conflict. Marcuse and his acolytes turned this selfishness into righteousness by teaching.
Wow, yeah, there's no possible way you could actually oppose the war in Vietnam, right? So opposition to the war in Vietnam was 100% just selfishness. No one at any point looked at that and said, hey, this is like a morally twisted scenario wherein the United States is doing stuff that it shouldn't be doing and sacrificing all of these lives at the altar of we have to make sure that communism doesn't get a stronghold here. And so that's worth any amount of lives that we have to sacrifice to make it happen. Any amount of American blood, any amount of Vietnamese blood, and any amount of American gold to make that happen. That's just worth it. And anyone who opposes that obviously only is doing so for selfish reasons. There's no way anyone could look at that scenario and be like, hey, maybe this is up. No. Just 100% like, self-preservation. And that's why it was only the youth that opposed the war in Vietnam. There was no one other than that.
Teaching the students that they weren't draft dodgers, they were noble resistors who were part of a global struggle for social justice. Marcuse portrayed Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Cong as a kind of third world proletariat, fighting to free themselves from American imperialism.
Well, they were. I mean, that doesn't make them good, but they were definitely that. So what's the objection?
This represented a transposition of Marxist categories. The new working class were the Vietnamese freedom fighters. The evil capitalists were American soldiers serving on behalf of the American government.
No.
Marcuse found in...
No, wrong. The evil capitalists are the same people they've always been. The super rich people that control the politicians and run the country. Nice try to attempt to refocus it like the soldier is the villain. The soldier is the enemy. You know, the soldier came back and they spit on him. They spit on the soldier. Grossly exaggerated claim, by the way. Almost no example. No, like there's like, let's see. I think it's like largely a myth that soldiers got spit on. So I guess there's argument about this. But the fact that there's argument about it kind of shows that this was not some widespread phenomenon. So some people, like the New York Times, says it's a myth, but of course, no one trusts the New York Times. People go back and when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing people go back and forth. There's people who are saying it's a myth that soldiers were spat on. There's other people saying that it's not true that it's a myth. So there seems to be some contention on that. What I won't deny is that some soldiers who came home from Vietnam were treated pretty shabbily because, the war that they were participating in was so unpopular. But for the most part, like, if you actually go back and listen to the rhetoric of most radicals back in the 1960s, soldiers were not really vilified as, like, they're monsters and they're monsters over there, bad people over there doing evil stuff. This is the same line of rhetoric that, like, when people like me opposed the war in Iraq, even though there was no draft. So, hey, why did I oppose the war in Iraq? Even though there was no draft. Like, but when we did that, people would say, oh, well, you hate the troops. You hate the troops. Now, I do have criticisms of the troops, to be honest with you. So, full disclosure, I can't 100% say that I support the troops. But a lot of people I knew that also opposed the war effort had 100% love for the troops, viewed the troops as 100% nothing but the naive victims of capitalist exploiters. They basically viewed the troops as being in the same boat as the rest of us. In fact, they were in an even worse boat because their poverty had been taken advantage of and they had been shipped overseas. Go and watch Michael Moore's movie Fahrenheit 9/11. Even if you don't like Michael Moore, I think that fucking documentary is pretty solid. And what it really shows more than anything else is the lead up to the war in Iraq. You know, it's not really so much about 9/11 as it is the drumbeat of war to go invade Afghanistan and to later invade Iraq. And, you know, Michael Moore probably, I mean, even though that movie is 100% about how the poor are exploited, you know, it's like the army dangles in front of them like, hey, you can, basically you have all this social welfare, you can get all this stuff from the government, but in order to get this stuff from the government, you have to first serve us. You have to go overseas, and you have to do what we say, and you have to kill the people we want you to kill. And speaking up for those soldiers and saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't treat these people's lives like they're just pawns in some geopolitical chess match against our rivals in Russia and China while we have proxy wars all throughout the Middle East trying to carve up those territories and split their resources. Try to siphon, you know, oh no, it's that these resources belong to America. These resources belong to China. These resources belong to Russia. Maybe those resources should belong to the people that actually live in the region where those resources exist. But of course, that's an unpopular idea. So we send fucking poor kids from America over there to die. And then the left protests stuff like that. The left says, hey, don't spill all of this American blood. Don't spend all of this American treasure. In these foreign countries, you know, just piling bodies on top of one another. And then like Dinesh D'Souza here frame that as the left hates the troops. The left hates the troops. The left does not hate the troops. The left has never hated the troops. There are certain voices on the left that may hate the troops. Just like there's certain voices on the right who may say this, that, and the other thing. But you look at the vast majority of the arguments that are being made on the left, and most of them are pro-troop. They're just anti-authoritarian imperialist government. And, you know, like they recognize, I think, that the reason that people become troops in the first place, most of them, is because they're poor. And the only way to actually get adequate social welfare in this country is by becoming a troop, because then they will pay for your college. Then they will pay for like a military pension, give you the benefits of the VA and shit like that. So I don't know. I probably spent too long refuting that point, but it really was an annoying one.
In addition to the students' other groups ripe for the taking, the first was the Black Power movement, which was a militant adjunct to the civil rights movement. The beauty of this group, from Marcuse's point of view, was that unlike white students, its members wouldn't have to be instructed in the art of grievance. Blacks had grievances that dated back centuries.
Sure.
Through another Marxist transposition, blacks would become the working class, whites the capitalist class.
Wait, blacks aren't the working class? There's never been, the working class has never been defined as like communist insurgents in Vietnam and black people, and that's it. That's what the working class is literally everyone who works for a living. The working, like whatever if you have to get up and punch a time clock and go to a job in order to sustain your existence, you are working class. That's it. That's what working class means. If you run the factory, if you're one of the lucky few that actually own the means of production, if you're the factory owner, or you're the Wall Street executive, or you're the big hotshot banker, then you are not working class. If you're not one of those, then congratulations, you're part of the working class.
Race in this analysis took the place of class. Another emerging source of disgruntlement was the feminists. Marcuse recognized they too could be taught to see themselves as an oppressed class. This, of course, would require a further Marxist transposition. Women would now be viewed as the working class and men the capitalist class.
No! Stop it! This is not accurate. I know my mind is blown that I'm watching a PragerU video that doesn't seem to care about like representing things factually. But once again, I've already gone into the reasons why. This is just not how the left thinks about class issues. It's not, oh, well, women are the working class and blacks are the working class, but white, straight men are not the working class.
The class category would now be shifted to gender.
No.
bored students, the aggrieved blacks, and the angry feminists would take time. But he wasn't in a hurry. Soon enough, the radical students would be the radical professors, teaching identity socialism
Apparently, Joe Biden was a radical professor.
to a fresh crop of impressionable recruits. Over time, Marcuse believed the university could produce a new type of culture, and that culture would then spill into the larger society to infect primary education, the news media, and entertainment. Even
Infect. Like, oh my God. Like, wait. So dissemination of a political ideology is not infection. These insidious socialists are going to do, you guys. They're going to go to all of these aggrieved classes of people who are not satisfied with society the way it is, and they're going to pitch them a society that might work better for their interests, and they're going to be convinced by it. You mean to tell me that these socialists are out there advocating for what they think are good ideas? The monsters.
It's an infection running rampant through America, and only we have the cure. We must stop him. We must stop him.
in big business, the hated capitalist class itself would succumb. He was right. Identity socialism has arrived. I'm Dinesh D'Souza for Prager University.
All right. Well, that was horrible. Didn't most of the hippies from the 60s drop out of school and become yuppies later? The students Dinesh is hating on were Reagan's biggest fans later down the line. Yeah. And a bunch of them became neocons too. Eventually, a bunch of the hippies eventually became the neoconservative movement in this country. So, yeah, I don't know. I say whatever wants to break the back of authoritarian fascists, let them. But don't let those people speak for the rest of us. I'd rather not die from a heart attack on the warehouse floor. What? I don't even know what you're talking about. Who's the most insipid person at PragerU? I don't know. All of them. I've never seen a PragerU video. I've been like, wow, actually pretty base this time. Pretty good. His tie is dumb. Let's see. Yeah, it is pretty dumb. That's a pretty dumb tie. I'll agree.